Today I had a conversation with Alex Hermansson, otherwise known as Herm or Herm Runs on social media. Herm is an exceptional individual. He's someone who is authentic, genuine. He is himself. I've always known him to be that way through his content. I've always considered him someone who is genuine, who is himself, who is real, and who is different. But he's not different because he rebels. He's not different because he wants to be different. He's different because he knows himself. He knows who he is, and he wants to just be himself. Shouldn't we all just want to be ourselves? He's not trying to fit in. He's not trying to fulfill the status quo. He's just trying to be himself. And he approaches running in exactly that way. He has a great story of transformation, but today we talk about not only his journey into running, but why he loves it so much. What is it about running and training runs that are so special? And why you, if you're someone who's struggling with their running at the moment, struggling to stay in love with their running, struggling to be enthused about their running, should not feel guilty about that, should not force it, and should love yourself for who you are. This is an episode about running. It's an episode about being you, and it's a great conversation with my friend, Herm. So here is my conversation with Alex Hermansson.
More than that, dude.
Serious money.
5K, maybe not pounds, but in America it'd be like 5 figures. You know, it's legit.
Yeah, I've heard of influencers getting paid $15,000 for a reel.
Yeah.
£15,000 GBP.
Very real.
For a reel. I mean, for me that's incredible, right? It's next level. But then once you know that, or you know that some of these influencers have equity in the business that or the product that they're recommending, you just know that everything they're recommending is just dishonest, right?
Right. They've never actually tried it. That's what's insane about it. Like, I don't know, not to flex too hard, but like I just turned down a brand to run a major marathon, and I was like, dude, I've never even used your product. They sent over the terms and everything. Like, I was very close to being like, you know what, this is a pretty good deal. But then I literally like went to sign it and I was like, this just is so out of my ballpark. Like, I just am selling out right now. I can't do that to myself. I can't do that to the audience I've built. And it actually felt kind of good to turn it away in the end. Like, you know, I think that those decisions are hard, and I do think that they can be like very, very, very lucrative in terms of the money that they can bring you. But at the same time, it's like you've built this audience for years on your honesty, your story, and everything else in between. If you just start taking every deal that comes across your desk, then what are you really doing? You know, especially if you've never used the product, especially if the product isn't even about running. Like, you know, when you're out here selling like life insurance, I'm like, why? Yeah. Why are you selling life insurance on your run today? That feels like super strange. But don't forget, you know, you're gonna die someday, so get this policy. You could be on your run, get hit by a car, and then like they'll like reenact getting hit by a car.
Yeah, I mean, as morbid as that is, it's kind of true in many ways. Most running gear is marketed like it's gonna change your life. Socks won't, but bad socks will ruin a run. I've been wearing Sums for a while now, in training, on trails, long days out, and the main reason I like them is pretty simple. Nothing goes wrong. They stay put, they don't rub, they don't fall apart after 5 washes, they just do the job properly. They feel good, they fit well, and they hold up when the miles stack up. If you're picky about the small things that actually affect how running feels, you'll definitely like them. They're also beautifully designed. So if you want a little bit of flair to your running kit, they're offering a special deal for That's Runnable listeners. So if you buy 2, you'll get 1 free with the code Runnable. So add 3 to your basket and use the code Runnable to get the 3rd free. That's sumsclub.co.uk. I guess, man, one thing I really admire and respect about you, and I think you probably get told it a lot, is your authenticity, whatever that means. I mean, you come across like you, I think is what that means. You come across genuine, you come across like you mean well, and you're real. And there are many creators out there who are very real and come across well. But of course, there are many creators who don't and do very well, even despite not coming across like themselves. And so it's refreshing. It's really refreshing to see someone like you do well, to grow, get opportunities, because actually I think the vast majority of people that see a creator they really like, an authentic creator who's really themselves and shows up authentically, when they see someone like that get good deals, they're kind of celebratory about it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think you should be too scared necessarily to take those deals, but I think it speaks loudly, your approach and the fact that you're willing to turn down offers that feel misaligned or feel dishonest. Because at the end of the day, you got to think about the advert you got to put together, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. Well, first, thank you, of course. That means so much to me. That's all I've ever wanted to be, though, is like just myself. If I wasn't myself, then this wouldn't have been fun. I would have been like playing a game this entire time. I would have felt like immense pressure to be, this character of myself, I guess. But that would be super lame in the end. And I've done that before. I worked in lacrosse social media for many years, right before the pandemic and after it. And I was never, the stereotypical kind of guy who hosts lacrosse stuff. Very American, like very upper middle class type, kind of responsibility these people feel they have in the world. And that was just never my thing, but it made me money, and I made videos about it because, it was what I was doing. So I got to play the kind of a stereotypical lacrosse bro guy thing, making videos for a little while, and it was super lame. And like, I did feel like I was always like lying to people, and that sucked. So when I did start this thing, I was like 100%, just me 100% of the time, whatever that looks like. And I think that is why it's stuck. It's why I've been able to do this for years now, and why I'm able to take like 2-week breaks at times, because I'm like, hey guys, I've just been a human for the last 2 weeks. Sorry, I haven't posted a video because, the world was crumbling for a little while, and people understand that, as opposed to like getting on and being like, oh, I thought that you could just make videos during the worst of times no matter what. And it's like, no. we have real feelings and real emotion, and then when it comes to the brand deal stuff, it's like, yeah, well, of course, when stuff aligns, we're gonna jump right on it. Like, I for many years only wore like Adidas half tights and Adidas shoes. They were just always my favorite. And then Adidas happened to come to me last year and want to work together for the year. Perfect. That is a great, amazing situation. It hooked me up, and they took great care of me, and it was already clothes and stuff that I was already wearing. So it wasn't like I had to go to the drawing board and be like, oh, maybe I can start wearing, XYZ brand shoes more often, and then I could like convince myself that I want to take this year-long deal with them, because that would have been me trying to like fake that situation.
Do you think, do you get a lot of offers then? Is it normal for the inbox to be full of offers?
This year's been awfully quiet, but last year, yeah, it was like every few, like, there's obviously like the spammy ones we get, but then there's like some bigger ones too, like probably once or twice a week. Yeah, it's pretty frequent, I think. And I would wonder, is it different in the UK or EU? Like in terms of the kind of not as capitalistic, consumerism driven ad space that we have here in the States?
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm. It is less. it is less like that, but it still very much exists. I think there's a lot of I think personally there's a lot of pretending in the UK and in Europe that we don't care about consumerism as much. I think the one thing I kind of respect about America and American culture is that there is this overt celebration of commerce and entrepreneurship and business and making money, whereas in the UK there's less of that. I mean, there's been conversations on like big podcasts, like I think Chris Williamson, for example, talks about this sort of tall poppy syndrome, which I think is very real in like the UK, Ireland, Australia. I've heard it's a bit real. This idea that like if anyone else sort of grows taller than the rest of it, they get cut off. The taller poppies get sort of cut off. This idea that if someone says they're going to start a business, then the response in the UK is like, are you sure you want to do that? It could fail. You might make a fool of yourself. And a little bit more sort of concerned for that individual. Whereas in the States, if you say, I'm going to start a business, they throw a party for you.
Yeah, throw a party. Throw you some cash, too. You're going to just have to like owe the person 27 times what they give you.
Everyone becomes a venture capitalist.
Yeah, literally. It's your credit score drops. You guys don't even have credit score. All these horrible things.
Well, it's just very different, very different. And I think, I don't know, man. I think it's every individual as well has different approaches to how they do stuff online. Like, even when I think about myself and my girlfriend Lou, I've endlessly spoken about the discomfort I have with advertising stuff online and like making adverts and stuff. And I often like have a tantrum about an agreement I've made with some brand that I'll make some stupid reel, and I'm like, why did I even do this? I shouldn't have done this. I hate it. And Lou's very much like, when I see an advert, I don't care. I'm just like, yeah, that's obviously like they have to make money. That's how they do it. And so there are different types of people that they're just sort of like, yeah, that makes sense. They're doing an advert, good on them, sort of celebration of them. And then there are other people like me where I'm like, oh, fuck off with your adverts, man.
I think that you and I approach this very similarly, and then our girlfriends also then view it very similarly. Alexis is always like, yeah, I just like it and move on with my day. Whereas I'm like, when I get the initial contract and everything, I'm like, oh, this is great. Gonna just make this quick ad. And then it comes to the actual making of the ad. And I'm just like, oh, this isn't me. This isn't my content. And like many brands, and this isn't calling out anyone in particular or anything like that, but it's like many brands will be like, be yourself, make one of your videos. And then you turn in one of your videos and they're like, actually, this sucks. Like, you didn't show the brand in the first 5 seconds. You didn't, mention how it's going to help you or anything like that. And I'm like, well, you told me I could just make one of my videos. It's in there, And then, you come back and they're like, do you want us to write you like a script or something? And I'm like, no, the last thing I want in the world is to read a script. Like, let me just like show it in the first 5 seconds and we'll clean this thing up for you. But like, it becomes one of those moments where you're like, in theory, this should be really easy. Like, we've gotten very good at making videos, right? It's not like we're bad at that part of it. It's that we're bad at selling ourselves in like such a way that we're like, you guys need this product. Whereas like, I would much rather just naturally include it into like, some other video that I have.
Yeah.
And not get paid. I'll happily like show it. But like, at the end of the day, it comes back to like, we have to get paid. Like, if we want to, continue to make these videos and make a living and keep a roof over our head, we do have to succumb to, the adverts.
Yeah, I guess I've always been in this advantageous position where I started making content as a coach, and even when I was like a coach on the side and I had my full-time job, like I had a nice, cushy, well-paid full-time job. I did not need I didn't need like to be making adverts for brands. I had, and I also had this kind of fundamental belief that I didn't want to be doing that anyway. And so I was sort of like adamant, playing the long game. I'm not going to be making ads or that many. If an opportunity that really aligns comes my way, I'll do it. But I do think it's advantageous to be in a position where you don't need that. And so my coaching is absolutely, and that's Runnable as a whole, is absolutely my priority. And so I work with Innovate, for example, through the podcast, and other sponsors in the podcast. And then I work with, one or two very small brands whose products blew me away. Outside of that, it's the coaching. So I don't need to kind of necessarily rely on it, which is great, because I think like we're both talking to each other, and I do think that our reputation online for both of us has been some level of authenticity, of us being ourselves. There are many people who do this well, but you speak as if you've intentionally lent into this because it feels like it's very much you're leaning into this like it's you, it's a part of you, and anything that goes against that would sort of ruin it for you. Am I wrong or right? In
Spot on. It's also I still have like I have a normal job too. Like I don't need the like at this point it's just like the cherry on top, right? I mean, what I really need is health insurance. That's the number one reason I keep the job. So it's like, you keep that around, and then, but also it does give you that comfortability where you're like, oh, I can say no to, making that life insurance video because I'm not relying on that money to like pay rent this month.
Do you think, just to segue nicely into running, it came to mind that, you were doing the lacrosse thing and it didn't really feel like you. And then now you're doing the running thing, and presumably it absolutely feels like you. But you're someone who stands stands separate from the in crowd, or at least the stereotypical runner. And so are you, although correct me if I'm wrong in saying it feels like you, but if it feels like you, are you told that it's not you? Or have you been told that it's not you?
You mean like running?
Running.
No. I think that like everything I've ever kind of tackled in my life is I've just kind of gone at it in my own, special kind of way, where it's like, yeah, I'll do the thing that is popular, do the thing that like a lot of people do, but I just won't do it the way that you might do it. And so like, I think that, and I don't even realize I'm doing it in like on purpose. Like I don't do it on purpose. I just sometimes go against the grain. Like I didn't realize how, like, for me, running shirtless, for example, felt like such a normal thing. Like no matter what you looked like. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up like being very comfortable in my body somehow. I mean, I definitely wasn't as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, I don't really give a shit, and I don't think anyone else should either. I didn't realize that was like outside the box or strange or anything like that. But here we are, 2 years later, after starting this kind of crazy movement of people running shirtless and feeling more comfortable with themselves, that they're like, dude, that was different. And I was like, what do you mean it was different? Like, I was just being comfortable, stuff like that.
I think it's different though, because the thing that makes you unique is you, right? And so you tune into who you are, and then that's what the unique thing is. And the more you can actually tune into your authentic, true self, it makes it unique. I would presume that if the same message was put across by someone else, and it wasn't truly their message that they needed to carry, it wouldn't have landed in the right way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. Wow, I didn't really think about it that way, if I'm being so honest. I think that sometimes things will just kind of come out in my videos and my content and like the things that I share, and I'm just like, oh, this is going against the grain right now. I didn't think that it was, me being anything exceptionally different, but it definitely does push some boundaries on what has become normal in the running space. Especially, I guess, when it comes to like, fueling on runs, things like that. Like, I really don't love taking gels and stuff. So like, I would just like eat normal food while I was out on a run. That made sense to me. Like, it's calories in, like it was carbs, donuts, burritos, hot dogs, whatever it was. That food like actually tasted good. So like why not do this instead of, suffering through some slimy gel that makes your stomach feel like shit?
Challenge the status quo.
Yeah, why not? Dude, I mean, so much of this shit is so lame that like if we don't, you're just gonna have zero fun. Like I do think that like there's really, really awesome and sick people coming up through the ultra space that are doing very similar things that might just not have as big of a platform. Like there's so many people that are eating weird food, dressing different, doing crazy challenges and just keeping it to themselves. Like you don't have to, go and follow this exact regimen of life where you're like, I am going to run every world major marathon this year or some shit like that. Like, why don't you just spend a year to not run any races? Let's go just run for a while. That'd be pretty rad.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you speak in such a way, it's so refreshing because, oh man, I'm just like nodding away because so much of what I believe in is that people get caught up in the status quo, or they get caught up in the trends, or what's cool, or what they should have, what they think they should have. And it comes back to like the influencer marketing, is that these influencers are flogging so much stuff as if you need it, but most of it is not a necessity. And you don't have to be like a rebel to stand against that. You just have to tune in to your own desires.
Yeah, like you don't have to go get all the leg tats and stuff like that. Like, sure, they look sick. Don't get me wrong, but like you don't have to like go and like very purposefully try and stick out and push up against the societal norms. And here's the thing, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. There was a point when I was first kind of getting into the marathons, and I did get my first opportunities to run, 4 of the 6 majors at the time in 1 year. So I did it, and like. Wow. That felt really good to me at the time. And it was like, I think it was just because I was dipping my foot into like the water, and getting used to, oh, this is what this could be. This could be really, sick with all these brand deals, this, that. And I think over the last year, what I really realized is that I just love to run. I don't need to show up at, these majors to run them. Sure, I do think that one of the most important things I can do is show up for my community and my people. So like if I can make it out to a major, sure, I'll go and cheer on my homies. But like I don't need to be on every starting line with them. I don't need to be like stealing bibs from people just so I can be on the race course or some shit like that. Like I also at the same time like you can rebel against something but also have a lot of respect for the amount of time and effort that goes into these races. And be like, you know what? It's not my place to steal a bib and put myself on the starting line under someone else's name, because there's a lot of liability that goes into that. So like, I don't think putting someone else's livelihood in jeopardy is completely worth that. But like, you can still go and have a really awesome time and hang out with some really sweet people. Those weekends are great. They're awesome. But like, you don't have to push some boundary that's like not actually like worth pushing, you just for a video, like just so you can make your video where you like announce every mile you've run of a marathon and under someone else's bib that's like folded up so you can barely see 2 numbers on it. Like that looks so much more lame than just going out there with no bib and like running half the course and doing whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah, man, I kind of love the message to just go and do what you want to do, because that's also how I feel. Like sometimes I feel like as a creator, coach, someone who's putting themselves out there as like a runner. I'm an ultra runner. I'm all these things. I've got this sort of identity online. Sometimes I feel like this probably self-inflicted pressure to do the things that people expect me to do. And actually, in the last month, I've kind of had this reflection, sort of getting all up in my head about content and the pressure of it and sort of offering out what people might expect from me. And now I'm like, do you know what? I need to just let go. I need to both let go of this idea of who I am, this like identity that I have, this idea of self. But I also need to let go of this potential idea of other people's expectations of what I should provide.
Right.
And really tune into what I want to do. Like what interests me.
Yeah, what's getting you stoked to get out the door? Because if you're not stoked to run a race, then why are you running it? Is it because it's, like if you got a bib to Boston, let's say, like, but every morning you were like, dude, I'm not even like that excited to go run this marathon, then why the hell are you running it, man? Like, are you doing it because it's the Boston Marathon and you feel like it's this like grand experience that no one else, no other race could ever match? Or like, are you doing it for your own self? And if you're doing it for your own self, then sure, great, keep training. I mean, training is tough. It is for every marathon. But if you're doing it just because the jacket you get, or because you get to say you ran Boston, then that might not be the reason why you should do that race. I mean, I do think that like that's so much of what like the ultra marathon running scene has kind of taught me. It's like, dude, we're just a bunch of freaking psychos. Like, we just want to go and run for a long time, and we prefer when the races are small and we get to meet every person on the starting line, share great conversations for like a really long amount of time, and kind of suffer together in this weird kind of, group of outcasts that just kind of came together to run slowly in a beautiful area of the world.
Yeah. Ultra running was always that kind of rebellious thing, that kind of dirtbag thing that people did outside of running. It's like, here's the running and everything goes up to a marathon. I call them the classics, the 5K, 10K, half marathon. The classic distances, the road distances. And then like the kind of slightly more rebellious lot would go and do like trail running, but then they'd sort of do the ultra running, the crazy stuff that wasn't getting any coverage.
Right.
No coverage. Like the original ultra marathon runners were just doing it because they loved it.
For the love of the game, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny about that too is that it's like there's this new kind of weird, I feel like I've gotten this vibe from like the internet where people feel like they can't become a trail runner without becoming an ultra runner.
Yeah,
and I'm
right.
like, that's just fucking insane. Like, if you think that just to get on the trails you have to be able to like run at least like 50K, that is absolutely bonkers. You can run 5 miles a day on the trails and it'll treat you so well. But like there was this notion that somebody had posted and it was very stereotypical, like this is a person who's kind of probably new to ultra. I mean, I'm still new to it too, but I feel like I've educated myself a lot on like the scene. And this person's just like, yeah, like if you want to get on the trail, you could just go for 50K that first day, and like it's just so much different than the roads. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like
50K, bro?
Like you're starting with 50K? Like what about hi, hello, how are you? Like, make that make sense to me.
Yeah. You talk about running and ultra running as well. I know you've done 250. Is it 250 milers that you did?
250 milers, a handful of 50Ks. Yeah, we're
amazing.
That's the best.
Yeah, I mean, you show some real fondness for the ultra scene, I guess. Can I say that that's true?
Yeah, I think it's the scene. I think the scene is why, or like the hang is why I show up to anything. Right. It's like, who do you want to surround yourself with? Is it a bunch of like weirdos in the woods eating grilled cheeses, or is it a bunch of people who might shame me online later for my pace and gels?
Yeah, I mean, there's an obvious answer to that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man. You have become a runner later in life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that?
As late in life as 25 is.
Yeah, right. I mean, you weren't a kid runner. To risk asking similar questions that you've been asked before on other podcasts, what was the kind of nucleus? What was the initiator of your running journey? How did it all start?
It was my girlfriend running New York City. It was 2022. 2022, she ran New York City for the first time, and I was a miserable, sad sack at the time. I was mean to her. I was not very encouraging through her training, and I've apologized profusely, obviously since then. But it's like
now that you're enlightened and
of course,
a runner.
yeah. But at the time, I was like, she's gonna die. Like, no human should run this distance. So her whole training block, I was like, why the hell are you doing this? Like, you could be doing so much cooler shit with your life. You could be coming with me to the bar and like eating wings. And so that didn't go over. She didn't succumb to my vices, and she ended up running the race. And that day, while we were there, I was like, oh shit, I got to do this next year. Not in like a competitive way or anything like that. It was like I started seeing people, as we looked for Alexis, I saw normal people out there, people who looked like me at the time, people who, maybe did weigh close to 300 pounds like I was at the time, and did, not fit that normal runner stereotype, but they were just out there chasing their dreams. And that would bring me to tears multiple times in the course. So like by the time that we were on the last part of the course on Fifth Ave and I was watching people run by and waiting for Alexis, I looked at my buddy and I was just like, dude, I'm doing this next year. Picked up the shoes the next day and just kind of, got going, because I don't half-ass things. Anything that I dive into, I have to go and explore it to its fullest. So it was marathon or bust, kind of, but like in a very healthy kind of monitored way. I wasn't just going, couch to 5K. I'm gonna go run a marathon with no training. It was like a year of building that kind of fitness to be able to cross the finish line in New York the next year.
Good little caveat there.
I think that's always so important to include in there, because there's so much bullshit out there about like, I'm gonna go run a marathon, or like I'm gonna go run 50K because it's my first day on the trail. Like, dude, like do something. Make sure that you can do that physically without it killing you, and that'll be much more helpful to your life. Because there was a podcast, I forget which one I was listening to, where someone was like, yeah, I trained for a marathon in 16 weeks or something, couched a marathon. And then I got fatter and more out of shape. Well, yeah, because you just put every egg into one basket, chased it, hurt for probably a full month after because your body was in literal shock, and you weren't able to get back into any kind of routine. Makes perfect sense. I could have told you how that equation ended before you even started the problem. Like, and I was lucky enough that Alexis was also really into kind of running culture. So like, I was getting educated daily by like the podcasts and the YouTube videos she would watch. Whether I thought about it on purpose or not, she was still listening to them in like the living room. So I would hear them and subliminally take it all in and be like, oh, okay, when I get started one day, this is what it'll look like. And so, I mean, that first month, I might have ran like 3 miles. It was a lot of walking because I could only run like 12 steps at a time before being out of breath. Like, and it takes a lot of 12 steps to even hit 1 mile. So it'd be like 12 steps, catch my breath, walk, 100 steps, run 12 steps. And it was just a lot of that for like a very long time. There was nothing sexy about it.
A few years ago, I thought blisters were just part of running. Like soreness, like bad days, like questioning your life choices at kilometer 28 of an ultra. You just accept it. Tape your feet, pop the blister, change socks and carry on. Then at some point you realize most of that is optional. I started paying attention to the boring stuff. Shoes that actually fit, training load that makes sense, and, stupidly late in the process, socks. And that's where Sums comes in. I didn't switch because of marketing. I switched because my feet were getting wrecked and I was training a lot. After a few weeks in Sums, the difference was obvious. Fewer hotspots, less rubbing, no sliding around inside the shoe when you're tired. My feet felt normal at the end of long runs. That was new. Sums stay where they should. They don't bunch up, they don't fall apart after a few washes, and they don't feel horrible when your feet are soaked in sweat. They don't make you faster, they don't give you motivation, they don't fix your life or change your attitude, but Sums remove one annoying problem from something you already do a lot. And if you do run a lot, that's more valuable than most performance claims. If you're particular about the small things, the things that really matter, about looking after your feet, then go to sumsclub.co.uk. They're offering That's Runnable listeners a special deal. If you buy 2, then you'll get the 3rd free if you use the code Runnable. So add 3 to your basket and use the code Runnable to get the 3rd free. That's sumsclub.co.uk. What was it that kept you patient with it all? Because so often people do go down that route where they think, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't know what you might call it. You might do the Couch to 5K, which I could do a whole episode on why I don't like that program. Mm-hmm. But the Couch to 5K, or you could do like, I'm going to run a half marathon and I'm going to sign up to it. It's in 20 weeks time. I've never run before. And then all of a sudden they're ramping up. Loads of people do it that way. And they don't have the patience to do it any other way, which is the right way, which is the way you did it, which incorporates a lot of walking with the running, is really slow, is really progressive. Why and how were you so patient with it all?
I think that I was patient because, well, two things. I think, one, I just heard too many horror stories about people like diving right in, getting hurt almost immediately. But 2, a week into kind of becoming a runner, because I dove right in. I started watching every running documentary and everything you could find on YouTube, the first week. And that first week I found Eric Sensman's Cocodona 250 documentary. And I was like, that's an insane race, but this is the end. This is the end goal. That's what I want to do one day. And what I really appreciated, and this is why I loved ultra running from like that kind of point, was like he did a lot of walking. He did a lot of very slow jogging. He just looked like he was out there just, whatever it looked like that day. And so I was like, okay, well, if this guy's a professional ultra runner, and granted he's running 250 miles, I'm running 1.5 miles, it's a little bit different, but I'm like, okay, well, if he can do this, then I'll just go out and I'll shuffle my feet, or I'll walk tonight and, maybe do that for 45 minutes, an hour. And that just made sense to me. I didn't really give a shit about going fast. It was more like, oh, the goal now is just see how far we can take this thing. How long can we go for? And as soon as that kind of clicked, it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go at whatever pace feels right today. If that means walking, then walk. By golly, walking is what we're going to do. And over time, that obviously becomes, you start linking miles together. And next thing you know, it's a random Thursday night in Boston. You've just run your first 5-mile run and got your first like runner's high, and you're bawling your eyes out because it was like the most beautiful thing you've experienced in ever. So it was like worth the 3-4 months lead up to that, where you're just like, oh, this is really hard. There's a lot of really slow, boring moments. Thank God I have a good podcast on. And, it led up to that amazing moment. And it's like one of those times you never forget.
Wow. There's something to be said, I think, for being in your own little training world, your own little training bubble. I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I went for a walk in the evening. It's pitch black, streets of London, nothing appealing about going for a run. And I was thinking to myself, because I saw a runner, and I was like, good on you, because there is nothing appealing about going out there. Right now, it's like 2 degrees Celsius. It's like, no, yeah. Really
that was
horrible.
Me last night. I was one of 4 runners out there. I could count every single in the city of Boston. I could count on one hand how many people I saw out there. But there's also something so beautiful about that, because like you're able to have this conversation with yourself, and you're like, you really just did that. You just came out here and you defied whatever odds might have been standing in front of you, but also like there's a sense of just calm. When you're out there, there's a million runners running by. It's great to see people. It's great to wave. It's great to feel like you're a part of the community. But when you're out there alone, there's like this kind of just, it's almost like spiritual. I don't know. But like, you're just like, oh, it's me. It's the road. It's my shoes.
Yeah.
And last night I was lucky. It was snowing. And it was like, you can't make this shit up. I got home and I immediately told Alexis, I'm like, that was just amazing. Like, I just needed that. Like, it felt healing to just go out and experience every aspect of that kind of being alone, snow, the whole, there's not even cars because there's so much snow on the ground. It's just like you, yourself, and your bubble. It was special. That was a great run last night.
That's it, man. It's you, yourself, and your bubble. So often we get caught up with looking at other people online, on social media, and what they're doing. People masking their external validation or their desire for external validation with supposed motivation and trying to kind of tell everyone how great they are. And you get caught up thinking about your pace and your comparisons of other things. But really the magic of running is your own little bubble. So even if it's not like, even if you're not looking, this is what I was thinking about last night, even if you're not looking forward to your runs might not be exciting. You might actually dread your runs at the moment. So you need to figure out a way, even if it is just the streets of London, pitch black, and, horrible environment, not necessarily desirable to be running there. You need to figure out a way to enjoy that. You need to figure out a way to get into your own little bubble and find that, what you like to call spiritual side of running, that special kind of runner's high, or at least just the comfort of your own little bubble. Like I like to listen to a podcast or a whole album through, or an audiobook or something. I'm lost in it. That's precious. If you're busy and you're stressed and you feel all this pressure, there is one time in the day, no matter what the environment is or how cold it is outside, there's one time in the day that you can put one foot in front of the other and be in your own little bubble. That's
exactly it. That is exactly it. You find that thing that excites you. Like for me last night, it was just, I listened to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, like all the way through.
Bro.
And it's like, I've listened to that album all the way through three times this week. It's just it's like that earworm I just have to scratch. But I was looking forward to it all day. Like I purposely did not listen to any song from that album all day long, so that when I wasn't even planning on running either. I was planning on going to the gym and taking the elliptical for a little ride. But then I was, we ended up not going to the gym, and I was just like, I just need to go out. I just need to go and experience it. And that was like the soundtrack to that run. Not to make it like over dramatized, but or whatever you want to call it, but it's like, every day you have this opportunity to make yourself like the main character of your own running story, and you can just go and like literally run with it. Like go be yourself, go enjoy that run, and really soak up that kind of, like you said, maybe hour and a half you get to just be with your thoughts, be alone and one foot in front of the other before you have to get back to, making food or walking the dog or responding to emails, whatever it is. Because at that point you then get pulled out of that kind of, endorphin state that you're feeling while you're running. And I think that's the best part about, like, kind of fast forwarding, the best part about getting good at running. Not necessarily like fast, not necessarily, quick or gonna win races, but good at running in the sense that you can just go. Your body after like the first mile kind of forgets the pain that you're feeling, and you're just in this state where you're like, you don't have to think about running. You're thinking about everything but running. And that's why we keep holding on to this stuff. It's like when people are like, how do you go for so long? It's like, well, you don't think about running. You don't think about your legs hurting. You think about, really fun, whatever's going through your brain at the time or whatever you're listening to. And running comes, as the kind of catalyst to movement there. But, you just end up, going from point A to point B, and everything in between is kind of in between your ears and not any part of your body.
Yeah, man. I used to get really excited. Like running is a huge love of mine, but my first love is music. And I used to get super excited about going for a run later that day because of the new album that was released or something.
Yeah.
And when you were just describing that Dark Side of the Moon, waiting for the opportunity to listen to that album, and then when you didn't go to the gym, you're like, do you know what? I need to get out there. part of that is because you were excited to experience listening to that album. Of course, part of it was the running, but you knew that you needed to get into that little bubble. And
Yeah.
man, I couldn't relate more to that. Sometimes I am just so excited to listen to something. I don't have any opportunity to do it outside of my running. And I'm like, I am going for, even if I probably shouldn't go for a run or whatever, I am going for an easy run right now because I need to listen to this whole album through. They've just released a new album and I'm super
Yep.
excited for it or whatever.
That, or like even like if I'm in like a good audiobook and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm only listening to it while I run. I'm like, oh, we're gonna extend this run 2 more miles. I need 20 more minutes, to find out whatever's gonna happen soon.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that the way that makes training and running so much easier because it's like, as soon as you disconnect running from pain or suffering, and turn it into this great event that you get to go and listen to something that you've been really looking forward to, or taking in information that's feeding your brain, and you're just like, oh, okay, wow, I can hang on to this for another 20 minutes easily because this is what's going to, make me feel really great. And, then the running just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's really sick the way that happens. Sick in a good way.
Yeah, the good kind of sick. Even if you don't have headphones or you're not really into listening to music or anything whilst you run, man, the meditative states I've been in whilst running and being conscious of the sound of the trees or the wind or my feet or my breath and just being aware, like mindful running almost. So often we're so caught up in our thoughts and our over-analysis of things, and we're lost in thought. We often forget to be very present, and actually the listening to music is in some ways us being very present because we're in our little bubble, but you don't need that, do you?
No.
You can just be in it. And like there have been times where I've been really just focused on my breath and really mindful, and they've been the most valuable runs.
100%. I think sometimes too, I like to run at night. I know that's kind of strange for some people, but sometimes it's just that way that like you unload your day. And so music even feels like too much, like or podcast or audiobook, where you're just like, I just want silence, man. I just want to not hear any thoughts. It's the way that you kind of process everything that kind of came with that day. Like you might have had a really stressful day at work. Maybe you got some tough news or something, and you're just like, this is all super, super heavy. So you don't even think about, putting the tunes on that day. You're just in the moment, working through whatever's going on in that brain. And usually, 9 times out of 10, you get to that backside end of that run, and you're like, oh, I feel a lot better. And you come home, and it's just, world of difference in your mood. And that's why, sometimes the music can be cluttery, but is always there on standby too if you need it.
You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a couple of months ago said that you are not going to be doing many races at all, and you're just going to sort of focus on your running. Is that right?
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to run. I'm going to run a race in the spring, but it's not like a race. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go vibe in Tucson, Arizona for the Desert Peak with Joe from his podcast.
Nice.
But I don't think I'm going to run any marathons. I don't have motivation. I ran a huge PR in the early fall last year. I don't feel the need to chase that PR at the moment or chase, a marathon time. Sure, maybe I'll run some races, but not to like run them, but just to like kind of go for a 26-mile run with some friends maybe. So we'll see. I don't know. The fall's shaping up to be my first marathon and probably my only marathon of the year. And I'll be doing that with a friend who has never run a marathon. It's the friend that I told in New York that I was going to run New York next year.
Oh, no way.
And I've convinced him to run New York, I think.
Wow.
So I think we might do that together. And I think that's like one of those really special moments where you get to kind of share your love for running and your love for this distance, which is like super unique, with someone else. So I think that's going to come to fruition. And I'll probably sprinkle a couple 50Ks in there. Just because I do think that there's something really nice about having like a closed off course for running that distance from time to time. But I don't think that this year is really going to be any year for PRs or like necessarily chasing PRs or anything like that. I just want to run a lot of miles. What I've learned is that the races actually hinder my training because it's like, you know, I'll have these great, you know, 15 weeks in a row where I'm building up to, you know, however many miles and I'm living there and I get so wrapped up in it because I love the training runs. Like I love having a great training run almost as much as I love like having a great race. So, but then you go and you run the race and you're like, oh, well, now I can't run for a week because I'm sore. I need to recover. And I'm like, well, that really just threw me off this great rhythm that I was in where I was like really, really loving what I was doing. So maybe I don't want to go exert 100% of myself into a race until I'm ready to, you know, kind of break up that rhythm. And I think that'll come by the end of the year, but it'll probably be way in the back end, like probably December. Maybe December I toss like 100K on the calendar and, you know, go for something a little bit longer and drain that tank and then, you know, start fresh next year or something like that.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting, I think it's a really interesting discussion to have this kind of, because, you know, we've just been talking about the kind of heavenly experience you can sometimes have within a run and the space you get from your stressful day and all of that sort of stuff. That really, in my head, is only happening if you're not thinking about the training you're doing. Mm-hmm. So if you're not thinking too much about, like, so it might happen on easy runs or something like that, but you can't really get away with doing that if you twice and in peak weeks, you have maybe 3 times a week, you have like specific speed intervals to be doing and, you know, threshold, and you're meeting certain paces, or you're trying to, you know, do some VO2 max sessions or whatever. And so when you're like in training for a race, that can sometimes not ruin, but it certainly will impact your relationship with running. And so it's refreshing to hear you say, you know what, I'm going to take a step back from racing for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually called my coach literally yesterday and I was like, dude, I mean, it's no wonder I don't have this like motivation to get back on the starting line right now. I mean, I had 2 huge races at the back end of last year. Like mentally more than anything, those take time to recover from. I told him, I was like, the idea of a 40-mile weekend or like back-to-back 40-mile weekends right now sounds daunting and terrible. I don't want to do that. But if I can go and do, you know, a couple 10-mile runs or something on the weekend, oh, sign me up. We're just gonna go hang, cruise, do whatever. Like that's an hour and a half on my feet, you know, just go and, you know, that'll be my long run for the week. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm very, very cool with that.
Yeah, man, I think it's great to hear you talk about it in that way. I just actually last week had released a podcast on passion versus obsession. So this sort of discussion about maintaining passion, like healthy passion for it, and kind of dropping our need to achieve certain things and all that sort of stuff. Because I found recently, actually funny enough, it sort of happened. I went out to the States last year and did a 100 miler, and for many years, I've dreamt of doing an American 100. I mean, for me, like to get to the Pacific Northwest and run those trails and do a 100 miler. I mean, all of my inspiration 6-7 years ago was from, you know, the likes of Billy Yang and Westplate and other videographers and filmmakers making these documentaries about American ultra trail. Mm-hmm. And so to get out there and do that was like what I'd been aiming for, you know, 5-6 years really, maybe longer in my head without realizing it. And so when I did it, I was extremely proud. And then I gave myself this kind of, do you know what, for the rest of the year, I'm not going to really do any races and whatever. And I thought my passion for running and passion for ultra running would kind of come back, and I'd feel this need to go and train for a race. But that never came. And in fact, what started to happen was I felt like I had this overexposure to running. And I make a podcast about running. I make content about running. I coach runners. Everything I live and breathe is running. And so I was sort of like a bit sick of it, to be honest. And a bit like, you know, I don't know if I can be bothered to train for this race. Like I've got this, and such a privileged place to be, you know, I'm going on these amazing races. But I think so there's something really healthy about getting rid of this sort of expectation that you should be doing races and you should be doing them often. And that's, I mean, there are people that I respect hugely that are doing a lot of races in the year, and they're putting it on social media and they're getting a lot of validation for that. And that is making probably people think they need to be racing more. I would say if you want to be a really class runner, you've got to be going and doing races. But for people like us who are just like hobbyists, do we need to be running races all the time? Do we need that pressure?
Not if it's draining your bank account too. Like these things are expensive too. Like, you know, I don't think that I do think that we've really glorified the, racing so many marathons. And I do think it's important to like note, you can run a lot of marathons. You don't have to race many marathons. I don't think running the 26.2 distance is necessarily like going to end you forever if you're training for, an ultra marathon. If you run the distance a lot, you're obviously going to recover a lot better than other people. And if you run it at, 75, 80%, you'll be able to bounce back and continue on. But there's people that are trying to go PR every month in like the marathon. It's insane. Like, and like you said, like we surround ourselves with running. Like it's just constantly in our lives. It's the videos we make. It's the podcasts we go on. It's the thing that we actually love doing. And if that's, part of the PRing or PBing every month goal, oh my God, I can't imagine what it's like inside your brain. It sounds exhausting. Like I feel like there's a love of the game there that I guess I just will never achieve because I don't think I ever want that. I think that if I can continue to get as much out of training runs as I do, in terms of feeling good, the endorphins that it gives me and kind of being on top of the world, then that's what I'm going to continue doing because it's free and I can just step out my door and do it any day of the week. It doesn't involve a plane ride and bib pickup and, all of that extra stuff.
Yeah, when I see some of these people who are racing really frequently and loving it and doing what I would deem unsustainable, I start thinking I don't like the sport as much as they do. I start thinking I like maybe I actually don't like running compared to them.
Actually, maybe I'm just not a runner at all.
Maybe I'm not really a runner.
What's so funny is that somebody asked me this the other day. I forget who it was, and they were like, "Oh, I haven't run in 2 months. Would you still consider yourself a runner?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, do I still did you stop like? Have you not eaten burgers for 2 months or something? You still are a fan of burgers." You don't, just because you take a brief halt of something, it doesn't mean that you're not, part of this category. If you feel like you're not a runner because you're not running a marathon every month, then I think you're actually doing some really great internal questioning. Because I think that that's kind of a line that gets drawn in the sand where people are like, this is what makes you real. This is what doesn't make you real, whatever. Like that, yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're questioning, what this thing should look like.
Yeah, man. So you came into running. I'm curious, not that you've not given it away already. You kept running, right? You did it in the right way and you kept running. Running must have given you something that you were missing before. Mm-hmm. What would you say overall running has given you that you didn't have before you started and you started training for the New York Marathon?
It's given me this freedom that like you don't really get to experience in life. It's the only thing in my life kind of that doesn't have direction. I don't have to go one route or another every single day. I don't have to tie my left shoe before my right shoe. Although I do those things, there's nothing that like I have to do when it comes to running. You can go at your own pace. You can go with people. You can go without people. You can turn left. You can turn right. And your body just kind of guides you. Where does it want to go? And there's not many things in life anymore that we get to experience this, right? Everybody's always telling us what we should or shouldn't be doing. But running, and this is kind of why I guess my message is the way it is like, dude, this is freedom. This is, other than the fact that like there's really terrible people out there that could make this unsafe for us from time to time, this is as free as we'll ever be. You know, you don't, there's no rules to this shit. You don't have to, you don't have to eat when you run. You don't have to wear two of the same shoes. You don't have to, you know, dress a certain way. You can do it however you see fit and fits your style, or, you know, the kind of flow that you're in that day. And I think that that really leads to like an amount of like pressure and weight just coming off my shoulders daily. And that's what's given me. Also like helped me a lot with like mental clarity and just like, you know, as someone who internalizes a lot of stuff with the world, it always makes me feel good to go out and just kind of let that all out while I'm running, whether that be in the form of like literally sometimes just like screaming while I run, sometimes literally crying while I run. All of these emotions can come out of your body, and although you might think it looks weird, you're having a visceral reaction to the world, and you're able to work through it and kind of comprehend the emotions that need to come out of you in those moments. And that's what you get from being deep into a run, you know, on a Wednesday night where you're alone and it's snowing and nobody's around you.
Beautiful, man. I think the one thing, as we sort of land the plane, I think the one thing I really admire and respect about you, and the thing that I think runs true, like threads through everything you've said, is that you are. We talk a little bit in the running space about running as self-expression, and there are plenty of people who kind of use running as a vessel for expressing themselves. And I think throughout everything you've described, you've always unapologetically been yourself. And that sounds cliche. It sounds like, oh, you know, hey, Herm, you're authentic, you're yourself. But really, you truly are. Like your interest in running is based on what you're genuinely, truly interested in. You're leaning into what you like about it. And you have it feels like you have no pressure, outside pressure of being a certain way. And that's what you love about running, is that you have this freedom to really be yourself and express yourself and do it in your own way. And that is refreshing, because we have so much content out there. Other creators are creating content that makes people feel they should do it a certain way, whereas you stand against that. And you say, you know what, you are unique, and running is available for everyone. So you can approach it in your own unique way. And I love that, man, and I'm really grateful that there are people like you and that you exist in the world of content creation. And although we're other sides of the world, I feel like it's a real privilege to kind of watch you make content, but also watch how many people it resonates with.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. At the end of the day, be uniquely you, because you only get to live this life once. So, like, why try and be like, you know, the, you know, 27,000th white guy to make content on the internet? I am a white guy. I'm recognizing this about myself. Like, you know, why be like everyone else? Why not just be yourself and be unique in that sense? And I think that as long as that reigns true, and as long as I always just want to be myself, this thing could go on for a really long time. And the day that I catch myself again kind of drifting off into another lane for some reason, if I ever do get caught up in the thing, in like the, you know, I don't know, overly influencer bullshit of it, then that's when I hang it up, dude. That's when we put the shoes, you know, maybe we put the camera down, keep the shoes on, but like, you know, maybe that's when it's like we go full incognito. We just go back to like the Timex watch, no more smart GPX watches, and just some old shoes, and just go run. No kind of and technology or video or anything to it. Just, you know, for the love of the game, dirtbag runners.
I think that's almost it, but I'll finish with one question. I think a lot of listeners are, well, we've got a range of listeners. We've got listeners who are training for their first 10K. We've got listeners who have been running ultras for 10 years and everywhere in between. But many of those runners, whatever level of runner they are, however much experience they have, will be, at this time of year, struggling with their running. And many of them will be struggling with their identity as a runner. What, if you could say a few things to them, would you say if you had someone in front of you who was really just struggling with their love for the sport that you love so much, what would you tell them?
I would say it's okay to not love the sport every single day. I think sometimes we get bogged down on trying to like force love for running. It's okay that if you're having a little bit of a spell right now where running is not the thing that gets you stoked on life, that is so okay. How are you feeling about reading right now? I'm personally big reading kick right now. I'm 11 books in this year. And that was for a few weeks there, feeling a lot. I know, dude, because instead of running for the last few weeks, I was reading. Yeah, and that felt a lot better to me than running for a few weeks. And that's okay. And maybe you really want to get into cycling indoors for a little while. That's also okay. Running is always going to be here for us. Running is not like a friend who just leaves you, and never says hi, or it's always going to be right there waiting for you. So if right now is not the moment that you want to go strap on your shoes and run a little 5K on the streets of London because it's dark, gloomy, and kind of gross out, that's okay. Pick up a book, cook a nice meal, watch a movie, and running will be there when you're ready to run again. And I think that so often we, search for these reasons to like have to love something that is not necessarily necessary, or not necessarily like needed. You don't have to force this thing right now. You can love something else for a little bit, but know that you're going to come back to the thing that treated you so well and treated your body so well and made you feel amazing. So if you need a little bit of motivation, that run's going to make you feel a little bit better. I'm not going to lie. Those endorphins are going to feel really great. But if you want to wait a week, if you want to wait 2 weeks, go read a book. Running will be there for you. And when it does, you'll be right back into the swing of things. It'll be a little hard those first couple of days starting back up. But once you're back into it, it'll feel really great. And you'll appreciate those 2 weeks you took to yourself to, do something else and not completely bog yourself down with counting miles, counting pace times, or anything like that.
Brother, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the podcast, but thank you for making the content you do. I'm glad that you do make that content. I'm glad that running found you. You're a net contributor to the space, and thank you for everything you do, man.
Tommy, thank you. I appreciate you, and I'll echo everything that you just graced upon me right back at you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me and Herm and listening to our conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took a lot from it. I certainly did. I feel like we just started getting going. I feel like time wasn't generous enough. But for the time we did have, I feel like Herm brought some real value. We're going to have him on again to bring that value again. But for now, I hope that you took from it what I took from it, or at least some of what I took from it. And that was to release the pressure on yourself, to prioritize fun, to prioritize enjoyment for the process, to slow it down, to appreciate the fact that you're out there moving, to be present in your runs, to bring yourself to the sport, to express yourself through the sport, and to love the process, to love running, and to love yourself. I really strongly believe Herm brings a net contribution to the space we're in. I think he's a great reminder that you don't have to be doing 12 races a year. He's a great reminder that you don't have to be like all the other runners you see online, and you can do it your way. And the beautiful thing about running is the freedom it allows for you to do it your way. So, I've been reminded to pursue within running what I'm interested in, what lights me up, and to unapologetically be me. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to rate the podcast, I would love it for you to do that. If you want to leave a comment on Spotify, if you want to follow on Apple, or just share it with a mate. If you think that this would be a good conversation for a friend of yours to listen to, share it, talk about it, and engage with it. I appreciate you listening. Thank you for being here. Run the runnable. Keep showing up for yourself. And I'll see you next time.